Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're still on our culinary tour of the southern states of America, and we're now in Missouri. This has been a fantastic day because I've visited almost every state in southern states of the USA, and it's marvelous. And I'm delighted here. We have Missouri, and we have Stephen, we have Catherine, and we have Rob Connoley, who's the chef, and he's been corn-fed, as you can see. So he's good quality. Now, Stephen, if I was coming to Missouri as a state, what sort of food and drink do you think you would want to serve me that when I came away from the state I would have as a food memory?
I think Missouri is kind of a melting pot of flavors. And so, for me, I'm a Missouri guy, born and raised. I would say our barbecue is probably the thing that we're most famous for. But I think, again, because we have so many cultural influences on our food, that you have a variety of options available to you. For this event that we're going to be doing here in the UK, Chef Rob is going to be preparing an elevated fried chicken dish that I think really speaks to the heart of our culture in Missouri and in the Ozarks in particular. And I certainly let him talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, Rob, you're going to be preparing a chicken dish. If I was eating this in your hometown, in your home city, where would you source the ingredients? How important are they?
Our sourcing is at the heart of everything we do in the restaurants. So whether it's vegetables or proteins, we work with small local farmers. And oftentimes you'll hear people talk about food miles, or is it local, where there's no definition to that. And for us, it's about the relationship with the farmer. So most things we get within 5 to 10 miles of the city, but it's really the relationship we have, because we want to know how the animals were raised, and more importantly, how they were harvested in the end, because we're a zero waste restaurant and we want to make sure that every piece of the animal is used. But ultimately, we want the story of the animal too. Not that we can share that back with the customers in a cliche way, but because it's about the ethics, and then as a chef, I want to know that's fresh and flavorful and not full of chemicals or anything else.
Sure. And from your restaurant perspective, is the chicken dish you're going to prepare, is that the one that is top of your menu? Do people always ask for that, or you got other things?
We have a lot of things, because we average 2 to 3 new courses every week, and so dishes don't stick around more than a month.
And is that because of the supply of ingredients?
That's right. It has everything to do with seasonality, and so we do foraged food, zero waste, and local all at the same time, and because the rationale behind those are very similar. And so the dishes come and go based on the season, and especially with forage, sometimes I'll come back out of the woods with, let's say, a pound of chanterelles. We have chanterelles for one night then, and that's it.
Sure. Catherine, you're from Explore St. Louis, where Rob is from. What sort of things do you do in terms of enticing people into the city from a tourism perspective relating to food? I mean, this sounds very exciting. I mean, it sounds, if I may say, almost un-American in terms of what you're doing. So how do you do that?
Well, so Rob, I think, is a very good example of what many chefs in the St. Louis region are doing, which is focusing on local ingredients and relationship building. St. Louis has been named the next great food city by Food and Wine, and that's for a reason. There is, as Stephen alluded to, there is just a breadth of cultures that call St. Louis home. So you really can dine around the world when you're here. But when you're looking for something local, going to Bull Rush, which is the name of Rob's restaurant, I mean, your menu changes, every single week. And, if you're starting in St. Louis, one of the things that is really interesting about Missouri as a whole is that we have this incredible wine country. And so an hour outside of St. Louis is Augusta, Missouri, which is actually the first AVA, American Viticultural Area, in the United States. And that's only an hour outside of St. Louis.
And Rob, do you serve local wine in your restaurant?
We do. We do more of the spirits and the beers.
Right, okay.
Because we also like to tie into the history of the role of Missouri grapes in the European wine industry back in the 19th century with the phylloxera epidemic. how Missouri rootstock ultimately saved the French and Northern Spanish wine industries. Of course, we were part of the cause of that issue, but it's not our fault. They ordered the grapes, and so we like to look at that connection because we're all about connecting the history of the Ozarks and Missouri to contemporary food. So we always say we can't serve things that are so modern that they become cliche or just a trend, but we also can't serve the old because we can never compete against the memory of grandma's cooking. So we've tried to find that connection of hyper-contemporary always tied to the past.
That's interesting, Stephen, because the common thread throughout all of these discussions I've had is the link between the common people, if you like, and the cuisine, and how they've come from a position probably of need, of want, of sometimes of hunger, and then to make the most of a product, be it an animal, be it cereal, be it vegetable, whatever it is. And from a state tourism point of view, do you feel that that's something because it has so many ramifications throughout the rest of the economy as well?
I think Missourians, by and large, are pretty resourceful people, and I think all Southerners are, quite frankly. And so I think the ability for us to, to grow and produce our own products is vital to our restaurant and our culinary industry, and to our wine industry as well. Agriculture is, the number one industry in Missouri, and so that agritourism component with our wineries, there's 130 wineries in Missouri and a dozen or so wine trails that people can explore. I think that we talked about this with another group this morning is this is real for us. This is real life for Missourians. I mean, we raise the crops, we raise the animals, we harvest them for food and for use. And so I think the things that Chef Rob and others around the state are doing really, speak to the heart of what Missouri is and what Missourians are.
It's interesting, Rob, just finally, that food appears to have in the United States of America as a whole, not just in the lovely city of St. Louis and state of Missouri, to have come on leaps and bounds in the last 20 years, I would say, from a position of almost like... wherever you went in the States, it was pretty much the same food. And now each state, each city, almost each village has its own set of cuisine, its own specialities. Is that something, obviously you're akin to from what you've said, but is that something that's a reality?
Well, it makes sense when we look at the larger landscape of food systems and restaurants, especially in America. About that timeline that you're talking about is when all of these highly trained big city chefs decide to go home, to skip the rat race of New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco and bring an elevated cuisine to their hometown, whether it's a mid-sized city like St. Louis or smaller towns like Columbia, Missouri or Jefferson City. And that happens all over the country. And what's really neat about our section of that country is that we come from these roots that are tied to the ground, meaning farming, ranching, foraging, hunting, especially hunting, which is a huge part of our culture. And then we go off, gain skills, gain inspiration, and then come back. And so it creates this new perspective on dining where it doesn't just have to be grits and bacon and eggs, which we love, but we can do something a little more elevated and more inspired. And so you see a merging of cultures, old and new cultures, and you certainly see the ingredients being tapped into where instead of flying in some produce from California, which is the farmer of America, we have it in the area, and we can work with local farmers to grow things that we need because they're very adept at it too. But then when we talk about the wines and the distilling, just recently we picked up a caviar company. And so there's not much that we can't get from the fine dining perspective, just doing local. But now it's got, of course, the warm fuzzies that I like about food miles and freshness and local economy, but also we have a stronger story. And, for some people, a story is just a story. But to me, this is about maintaining the culture, the history, the rich history of the region, which is so tied and living off the land and not wasting it, because it was a humble, modest culture, historically speaking.
Very good. They should use you in a tourism promotion. I think. Yeah. Thank you very much. It sounds fantastic. It really does. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham.